What's going on? It's Jason Heath, and we are taking a look at some new strings for the double bass. I'm always a little shy to try out new strings because it's such an expensive proposition and you could really go down the rabbit hole with that. So I tend to find a string brand and stick to it. I have been a fan of all different kinds of strings over the years, from Kaplans to Pirastro Permanents to Tomasic's Bel Cantos. And I have had these Perpetual strings by Pirastro sitting around for the last few months. I've been meaning to put them on, and Ed from Pirastro, he and I ran into each other at the NAMM show last year. He sent me a long E string, which I need for my extension, so I now am complete. I've got a brand new set of Perpetual strings ready to put them on my bass and test them out. So I'm going to be testing them against a set of Kaplan strings that I've had on. I've had these on for a little over a year, so they're getting a little old. So it's not a 100% fair comparison because the Kaplans are wearing out a little bit. I try to be good to my strings, but they just do wear out over time. These are going to be new, but we will do some testing and some comparison. I'll get some good microphones on here so you can hear the difference, and I'll share my thoughts on how these strings play. Okay, let's take a look at these Kaplans before I take them off the bass and put the Perpetuals on from Pirastro. And again, I've used all kinds of strings over the years. D'Addario's been great to me over the years. They've sponsored my podcast for quite some time. We're taking a pandemic break right now, but may very well be back to it at some point, so full disclosure there. But I had been meaning to try out the Kaplans anyway. Prior to that, I'd heard great things from lots of people that have used them. I've been using them for the last 4 years as my main string, and they've been great. Prior to that, I was using Pirastro. I was using Pirastro Permanents. I had used original Flexicore. I'd used Flexicore Deluxe. Actually, I think Flexicore Deluxe was what was on my bass the most recently. So Kaplans and Flexicore Deluxe are fairly close to each other. To me, Flexicore Deluxe were just a little bit brighter, and the Kaplans were just a little bit warmer on my bass. These strings seem to really vibe well with this bass. So these Kaplans speak easily. They have a great attack. Part of that is because of the dampening agents in these strings. They're not designed to ring and ring like Spiracore or like Helicore jazz strings. They have a little bit more material. And by the way, I will link up to in the card here a blog post I did walking through the D'Addario factory on Long Island in New York. I got a behind the scenes tour and I got to see these strings being made and all the acoustic instrument strings as well as electric bass and guitar strings. It's really interesting to see that whole process, but you'd be amazed what goes into these strings and what goes into each string. So my thoughts on the Kaplan are, for this bass, which is a fairly big sound bass, fairly rich open sound, particularly the A string, they have a nice mellow quality and are really quick to speak under the bow. So let me play. There's something about that tone I really find pleasant. Just really quick response up high. Decent ring. And now this bass tends to be a ringy bass, resonant bass, whatever word we want to use. I can play a note and go get a cup of coffee and come back and it's still ringing. That's true with all strings, but I do find that to be the case particularly with these and with those Flexicore Deluxe. When I used Tomasic's Bel Canto, those didn't quite have that zinging ring sound. I did experiment in the last few years with D'Addario Zyx strings, and I decided that those strings are awesome and also not for me. The sort of thing that with this bass, I couldn't imagine going and singing in the bass section. I just stood out so much. Those really rang. So these have a nice rang. Open string. Nice, kind of buttery sound. They feel really nice under the fingers. They have kind of a soft feel under the fingers. These are all nebulous terms, I realize, but they're just pleasant to play. Not too thick, not too thin. They have a decent amount of flexibility when I pull on them like this. Again, these are non-scientific terms, just my player perspective kind of terms. And yeah, just really response. Now, the cool thing that I found with Kaplan's is that, unlike some other variants of the major string brands, these are pretty good pizzicato strings. That's my dog squeaking on a squeak toy, by the way. You gonna do that now? Okay. Well, so. So do a little beef out blues. So, I got kind of a lame B-flat blues, but so nice pizzicato sound to me, nice sustain. I am not much of a jazz player, it's probably obvious, but they've worked well for me when I have been playing in situations like that, and just great all-around strings. So let's take these strings off and check out these new Pirastro Perpetual strings. So I'm going to practice for a little bit and let these settle in, because they are always going to be way too bright. Any string that you put on right after putting them on, you got to let them settle for a little bit. Here are my open strings. I just tuned this bass. So right now there's no rosin down on the strings by the bridge. Those are the first notes I've played with the bow, aside from just tuning them. The second right here. So I'm going to come back in a little bit, and you can hear them after they've settled in for a little bit. I do like the packaging that they send. I like this new look, this color, the Perpetual. We've got the winding. We've got this sort of golden winding, so that's interesting for sure. And then everything about it. Pirastro has always been great about soliciting feedback from people who are trying their strings, so they send this questionnaire along, which I will fill out and send back, absolutely. They also have some more information about some of their other strings. I've got the Ava Prazzi, the Obligato, and yeah, I've loved everything I've tried from Pirastro. I've been original Flexicore I've used over the years too. Permanents are what I've used most recently from Pirastro. Those seem to work well on my Jackstack bass, which you can see back there, and you're going to hear more of. And as I open up this Perpetual bass, I see my buddy Jeff Denson, who's the California Jazz Conservatory bass faculty, and I believe he's the dean of the school, or he's running an administrative position there too. So that's really cool, because Jeff, Jeff is predominantly a jazz player, although he does everything. So wow, that's really cool. Okay, I played about an hour. That's obviously not enough to break them to the extent that those Kaplans you heard are broken in, but they're broken in more than they were with those initial open strings. Wow, okay, so initial impression. Well, let me just play a couple notes, okay, now that they're broken in a little bit more. Whoa, listen to this. Still going. Listen to these pizzicato notes. Listen to this E string. Listen to this. Listen to that ring. Okay, so again, they're going to break in. They are, okay, so the Kaplans and the Flexicore Deluxe are kind of similar in category in terms of the way they play, the way they sound. These are much closer. I'm not going to say they're like Spiracores, Tomasic Spiracores, but they have they're a little more that kind of a ring with the pits. I can see why Jeff Denson is on the packaging saying how much he loves them. These are, they're interesting. So I put them, first of all, I like them. I've never not liked anything I've tried by Pirastro. They're all just different. So just, put that right up front there. The Obligatos and the Ava Pirazzis and the permanents that I use for years. I probably use those more than just about anything. These have, when I put them on, they were so easy to bring down to the string. I don't want to say press, but just to put my fingers down, that actually raised my strings slightly. I had lowered them because on the Kaplans, and I don't think of the Kaplans as being a tough string to play, but when I lowered when I was doing a lot of solo stuff because I've gotten, I'm just sitting at home during the pandemic, and I was starting to get a little fatigued because I have a 7/8 size bass. It's a little, it's not a tiny bass. And I had my strings kind of set for orchestra playing so I could have some verticality in my stroke. Brought them down. I put these on, and they were so easy to put down to play with the left hand that I actually raised them a little bit, and then I sort of split the difference. So they are very, very easy to just bring to the fingerboard. Wow. They're a very quick string, quick feeling string in the left hand. They are way brighter than the Kaplans, obviously right now, but I think that they're brighter than the Kaplans just in general. This is a sound that I think is quite attractive to the 21st century player or 21st century audition committee or just people in general. It's a very clear sound. You're getting the sound of the bass. You're getting a nice clear sound. There's a thing that bass players often have where we like these rumbly, like Flex Core Original, another Pirastro string. Those are strings that, for me at least, they sound great under the ear, and it sounds like you got a mute on your bass as soon as you get away from them. In many cases, not always. But these strings really have a nice balance to them, and I think that they are going to be sounding great to somebody listening to me. Again, on our end, they sound a little bit bright, especially this E. Oh my goodness. And there is a little bit of a stiff feeling to this string. I remember that being the case with Pirastro Permanents. I remember a couple days in, it's like, fantastic. So my guess is that these are going to settle like that. But boy, they have the sustain you get on them is great. They've got this amazing sustain. Again, this goes forever. But they also, they are, the thing that I've learned in my limited research on strings, that dampening agent is what allows you to change the bow rapidly. That's what you typically want in an orchestrally oriented string. So these have that sustain that a lot of people are looking for in a string that's appropriate for jazz, but they bow incredibly quickly. So that's a great mix. And oh my goodness, that pizzicato sound. And again, I'm mostly an arco player, but boy. This would be an awesome string if you were doubling, if you are playing jazz but with the bow too. If you're playing predominantly classical, I think this is going to be a good string too. That's what I do. So I will likely do some sort of an update video on these strings as they break in, or just subscribe to this channel. You're going to be hearing me play all my future videos on these strings. So check out videos after this one and you'll hear them almost certainly settle in. All right, that's a look at Pirastro's Perpetual strings on the bass. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm a fan for sure. I've liked everything I've ever tried from Pirastro. I like many other string brands too, but they are absolutely top-notch, high quality. I really appreciate what they do for string players and for double bass players. They're great with the double bass community. So definitely check them out if you have the chance. And thank you so much for watching this. If you want to go deep on strings, check out this video that we've got linked up. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.